The painting we are looking at has been called one of the most disturbing images ever created in Western art. And once you understand what is actually happening here, you will see why. This is Mad Meg, or in Flemish, Dulle Griet. It was painted in 1562 by Pieter Bruegel the Elder, and it shows something you have probably never seen in a painting before. A fully armored woman, sword in one hand, treasure in the other, marching directly into the mouth of hell itself. But this is not a heroic scene. This is not a saint or a warrior queen. This is something far stranger and far more unsettling. To understand what Bruegel painted here, we first need to understand who this woman is, or rather, what she represents. Dulle Griet was not a real person. She was a character from Flemish folklore, a symbol of the angry, irrational, destructive woman. Her name essentially means Mad Meg, or Crazy Meg, and she appeared in proverbs, popular sayings, and stories throughout the Low Countries during the 16th century. In these stories, Dulle Griet was often portrayed as a shrew, a woman so consumed by greed, anger, and chaos that she would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. She was a warning figure, representing the dangers of unchecked emotion and the breakdown of social order. But Bruegel did not simply illustrate a folktale. He took this character and placed her in one of the most nightmarish landscapes ever painted. Because what we are looking at is not just a story about one woman. It is a vision of a world that has completely lost its mind. Look at the background. The entire painting is consumed by fire. The sky burns red and orange, buildings collapse, and everywhere you look there is violence, chaos, and madness. On the right side of the painting, we see the literal mouth of hell. It is a massive structure, with gaping jaws and glowing eyes, and people are streaming toward it. Some are being dragged, some are walking willingly, but they are all heading in the same direction. And in front of that mouth stands Meg herself, dressed in armor cobbled together from kitchen utensils and mismatched metal plates. She wears a helmet, carries a sword, and clutches a bundle of stolen goods against her chest. Her face is twisted in determination, or perhaps rage, and she is marching forward as if nothing can stop her. But what is she doing? If you look closely, you can see she is not fleeing hell. She is not fighting against it. She is looting it. She is raiding the underworld itself, grabbing treasure and dragging it back with her, as if even damnation is something to be plundered. Now, at first glance, this might seem absurd, but that is precisely the point. This is a painting about a world where reason has collapsed, where even the most insane actions seem logical. When Bruegel painted this in 1562, Europe was tearing itself apart. The Protestant Reformation had fractured Christianity. Wars of religion were erupting across the continent. The Spanish Netherlands, where Bruegel lived and worked, was caught in the middle of brutal conflicts between Catholic and Protestant forces. People were being burned at the stake for heresy. Entire towns were destroyed. Soldiers looted churches, homes, and even graves. The social order that had held communities together for centuries was disintegrating. And what did people do in the face of this chaos? Many of them did exactly what Meg is doing. They took what they could, hoarded what they had, and acted out of pure self-preservation and greed. Look again at the painting. Scattered throughout the scene, you will see dozens of smaller figures engaged in their own acts of madness. Women fighting each other with knives and kitchen tools. Demons tormenting victims. Strange hybrid creatures wandering through the flames. A fish with legs. A boat on land. Eggs with arms. Everything is inverted. Everything is wrong. This is not just hell. This is the world Bruegel was living in. A world where violence had become normal, where moral order had collapsed, and where everyone was scrambling to survive, even if it meant descending into madness themselves. Now there is one more layer we need to discuss. Because while Dulle Griet was a symbol of female rage and disorder in Flemish culture, she may also represent something more specific. Some historians believe that Meg is not just a warning about greed or violence. She may be a symbol of the common people themselves, desperate, angry, driven to extremes by forces beyond their control. In this reading, the painting is not condemning Meg. It is showing us what happens when ordinary people are pushed too far. When war, famine, and religious persecution strip away everything that once held society together. Even a simple housewife will arm herself and march into hell if it means protecting what little she has left. And that makes this painting far more tragic than it first appears. Because Meg is not a monster. She is a victim of a world that has gone so completely mad that her own madness seems reasonable. Pieter Bruegel the Elder is known for painting scenes of peasant life, landscapes, and biblical stories. But he was also one of the greatest painters of chaos and moral collapse. In the same year he painted Mad Meg, he also created The Triumph of Death, another apocalyptic vision showing an army of skeletons slaughtering the living. And a year earlier, he painted The Fall of the Rebel Angels, showing demons tumbling from heaven in a cascade of twisted bodies and monstrous forms. These were not fantasies. They were responses to the world Bruegel saw around him, a world at war with itself, where death was everywhere, and where the line between heaven and hell had become dangerously thin. And in Mad Meg, he captured something essential about that moment. Not just the violence, but the psychology of it. The way people stop acting rationally when survival is all that matters. The way ordinary people can become capable of anything when pushed to the edge. So when we look at this painting now, more than 460 years after it was created, what are we actually seeing? We are seeing a woman walking into hell, stealing from demons, dragging treasure through a burning landscape, and we are seeing something deeply human in that act. The refusal to surrender, even when everything is lost. The desperate clinging to possessions when nothing else makes sense. Bruegel painted a nightmare, but he painted it so convincingly that we recognize it. Because somewhere, in some part of ourselves, we understand what it feels like to live in a world that has stopped making sense. And that is why this painting is so disturbing. Not because it shows us hell, but because it shows us ourselves. Thank you for watching this video until the end. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you see when you look at Mad Meg? Let me know below.